Ambassador Sood, the message that is coming in from Prime Minister with China in that room in Tianjin is that, and of course, Pakistan, no double standards on terrorism. Let's not forget the stand that was taken by China during Operation Sindoor.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm afraid having been a diplomat and having been involved in drafting speeches for more than 3 decades, the idea of SCO now standing for security, connectivity, and opportunity. I mean, we've seen these abbreviations being used at the drop of a hat. So this is not something that particularly is reassuring. But as you very rightly pointed out, the question is that what are our long-term interests in the sense with China, and whether those concerns have been addressed or not. You mentioned Op Sindoor, and we saw the kind of active cooperation which the Air Force has publicly said existed during the conduct of Op Sindoor. Secondly, we also saw, you mentioned rats, but we also saw that the previous statement at the defense minister's level of the SCO, which took place barely a month ago.
That's right.
We had to dissociate ourselves because we were dissatisfied with the reference to Pahalgam and terrorism. So we'll have to wait and see what this is going to yield. Summitry is all very well, but summitry has to have a lot of serious work behind it to be able to judge as to what the long-term implications are.
Okay, Namrata, your takeaway? You'll have to unmute yourself. We also have Shrikant joining us. He's a professor in Chinese studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University here in the national capital. Go ahead, Namrata.
Yes, I would agree with Sir. I think he's very rightly pointed out that SCO has the biggest perpetrator of terrorism, which is Pakistan. The victim here, India. We have seen that in the last meet also, that Pahalgam was not mentioned, and it was, they did mention Baluchistan attack. So we cannot really. And also the recent article that has been published by Liu Zhonghe, when everything is happening at SCO, calling India an internal cancer to SCO. This is not the first time that Chinese have raised their doubt about India being part of the SCO. And this article especially I'm pointing out because it was published 2 days back when everything was happening at the SCO. So also when it comes to the larger India-China ties, I think we should not really jump to conclusions by saying it's a reset, it's a historic meet. It is what it is. It took a lot of effort, diplomatic effort, to get where we are. And also this rhetoric that I'm hearing, it is because of Trump tariffs that this has happened. Let's not give Trump credit for something that is he doesn't deserve. It's not because of the tariffs. It was 9 months before that we reached a disengagement agreement at Depsang and Demchok, and it has been a very long drawn process. At least right after Galwan, there have been multiple level of meetings between India and China, and an effort was put into this, that we have seen this meeting. And also this is not a bilateral, this is on the sidelines of a multilateral organization. So let's take one step at a time and not really, go into all these rhetorics and call it as a reset in India-China ties.
A great degree of caution here coming in from Namrata. Professor Shrikant, your reading. Professor Shrikant, if you can hear me. Okay. Okay, we'll try and fix that line with Professor Shrikant. But Gaurav Sawant, as you report for us from Tianjin, no double standards on terrorism. Terrorism in all its forms and colors have to be condemned is the message coming in from the Prime Minister.
All India can do is state facts in public domain. Beyond that, India can only expect the world to act in good faith. But do we see that happening? Clearly not. The fact that a victim of terror and a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror are on the same platform, do we see Shahbaz Sharif squirm here when cross-border terrorism is called out, or when Pahalgam terror is mentioned? No. Pakistan has been rather shameless about this. Globally, Pakistan is known as a sponsor of Islamist terror and radical Islamist terror. From Madeleine Albright calling it an international headache and a migraine, to others saying it's global terror epicenter, terror central. All of these have been words used by the West in the past. But what's happening now? Asim Munir is on the high table with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is looking after his personal interests, or whatever interests he thinks he can best meet, whether it's a cryptocurrency deal, a mining deal in Baluchistan, an attempt to wean away Pakistan from China. We do not know what are games at play between America and China, but American double standards are there for all to see. The Chinese double standards have been there for all to see for decades. But what is India's principal concern? One, highlight ground realities. India has raised the issue not just of cross-border terrorism, sought a mechanism to deal with it. India is also talking about territorial integrity. When we talk about connectivity, it's more than just words. Connectivity, when you talk about Chabahar, North-South corridor, it's a counter to the Belt and Road Initiative from our side to say it's a violation of India's territorial integrity where it goes through Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which is a part of Indian territory. India on our own with other partners is working on the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. So that is an alternate route, but something that was agreed to during India's G20 presidency with Biden as president. Will Donald Trump take it forward when we are having issues with tariff with Donald Trump? Again, that remains to be seen. India-Japan is that big story, according to me, that comes out of the Prime Minister's visit. Absolutely. Nobody is celebrating the Prime Minister's China visit. Nobody is calling it a reset. It's just being looked at exactly the way it is. One more attempt. Will it be a false start? We've had several false starts in the past. We've all reported what happened in 2014 in Ahmedabad, Wuhan, Mahabalipuram. We've reported it all. We're only reporting what's happening on ground. Another attempt being made to bring the relationship on an even keel to ensure our economy can do better. And that's why one of India's principal efforts is also to seek greater access to Chinese markets. That was raised between Wang Yi and India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval in their talks in August, that this has strategic ramifications for India if the trade imbalance reaches $100 billion.